Hello, my name is Walter Milando, and this is my presentation focusing on my mom's journey for immigrating from Uganda to the United States in the 1990s. Her story reflects how political history, identity, race, and structural systems help shape the immigrant experience moving to the Western Hemisphere. Contents. In this presentation, I will introduce immigration within a historical context, explain who the case study is about, analyze the diversity and inclusion challenges she faced, discuss what I found inspiring, and share what I learned, while proposing future steps and conclude with a few reflective questions. Introduction. Immigration is shaped by political instability most of the time, economic opportunity, and structural conditions. In this case, African immigration to the United States increased significantly in the beginning of the 1990s. Uganda experienced political instability under the Idi Amin regime, which disrupted national development, where my mom grew up. Intergroup contact theory explains how relationships between social groups influence biases and belonging. This case of my mother illustrates how historical forces shape migration decisions and identity formation. Who is this case study about? So my mom, she was raised in Kampala, Uganda, which is the capital of the country, during the post-political instability and recovery after the Idi Amin regime. Her parents strongly valued education and supported her pursuit for higher education abroad here in the United States. Diversity and inclusion challenges. She experienced prejudice and stereotypings which was common towards African immigrants in the 90s. She encountered implicit bias in academia as well as professional settings. She navigated the cultural stress during the adaptation. She faced cultural dissonance within the Black American community as well due to differing historical experiences because the typical experience of a Black American woman is influenced by the history shared by other Black American women in the United States, dating back hundreds of years, whilst my mom had a completely different history in Uganda going back hundreds of years, which differed despite looking the same. Intergroup dynamics can create misunderstandings even with these shared racial identities. Structural barriers in the United States and limited access networks and institutional mobility don't allow for these differences to be shared and furthermore surpassed. The most inspirational part of my mom's story to me is her resilience. She maintained her Ugandan identity while integrating into American society. It's a common issue that a lot of immigrants have coming from all around the world to America. She adapted across different states and racial climates, moving from Sacramento to North Carolina and dealing with completely different people with their completely different political ideologies, all early in her life. Her perseverance created generational opportunity, allowing me to be here and making this presentation as well. What I learned. Immigration is a lifelong negotiation of identity and belonging. The Black identity is not a monolith. Culture and history do shape experience. Despite looking similar to somebody, history does shape culture. And it does create differences despite looking the same, and the same can be said in many cultures around the United States. So the teaching of the experiences of these different cultures can allow people who may have different histories and do look alike to become closer. The positive intergroup contact can reduce bias, as I just stated, and political history influence generational mobility, meaning the same way an immigrant can move here from Uganda and be allowed mobility based off their history. It's because they know where they come from. The same way an African American with a different history can do the same because they know where they come from, and everybody else does as well. Future steps for inclusion: expand cultural competency education to include African immigrant narratives. Don't just have a box to check saying that you're African American. Allow people the choice to choose their history, even in situations at the DMV or simply getting your passport. Develop mentorship programs for new immigrants. Moving here was definitely hard for my mom initially, and without our family who was already here, I don't know how she would have done it. But those who don't have family do need mentorship because there's a lot to unpack moving from a completely different culture to the West and dealing with all the different systems in place. Improve recognition of foreign credentials. Another issue is recognition or being recognized educational background from different different educational backgrounds from the continent of Africa aren't as respected in the US and some other countries as well. And they produce similar or somewhat improved or in the same realm professionals in these fields, and further implementation of recognition for these credentials would prove helpful for the country as a whole, as well as immigration. Encourage structured positive intergroup contact. Like I mentioned earlier, the difficult steps my mother took trying to adapt to people who lived a different experience from her that looked like her. There should be more of a push to push African communities and African American communities and Jamaican and Caribbean to all collaborate together, to share histories, to share differences, to see where people can all connect. Conclusion: my mother's journey reflects resilience shaped by political history and education. Immigration is an ongoing negotiation with identity and opportunity. Her story mirrors broader systemic immigration patterns in the United States as well. Some questions I have are: how can institutions better recognize interracial diversity? How does political instability shape migration across generations? And also, how can structured intergroup contact reduce misunderstanding? Here are my references, and thank you for listening.